After battling 2 different cancers in 2 years and undergoing months of radiation, chemo, and surgery to remove part of his tongue, the 66-year-old can finally say,
I'm happy to announce that I'm in remission from both cancers.
The man America knew as the lovable Uncle Joey was quietly fighting battles far darker than anyone realized. Best known for playing Uncle Joey on Full House, Dave Coulier spent decades making audiences laugh while privately enduring devastating personal losses, alcoholism, and 2 separate cancer diagnoses in just 2 years. As his appearance changed and his health declined, many fans were shocked to discover how much suffering had been hidden behind the smile they grew up watching.
Emotionally, it's a battle. There's moments where I just kind of break down. Is this going to come back? Is this going to haunt me the rest of my life? Is this constantly going to be a little devil sitting on my shoulder?
So, how did Dave Coulier's life become so heartbreaking behind the scenes? And what really happened during the years the cameras stopped rolling? Join us as we uncover the tragic reality behind Dave Coulier's life. The funny kid from Michigan. Dave Coulier was just a kid who was really good at making people laugh. He was born into a tight-knit Catholic family in a working-class town north of Detroit, right on the edge of Lake St. Clair. His dad worked at Chrysler, while his mother was an interior decorator. They were not a showbiz family and did not have connections in Hollywood. What they did have was a house full of people, full of laughter, and full of the kind of casual drinking that defined Catholic blue-collar Michigan in the 1960s. Dave once described being handed a gin and soda at a wedding reception when he was 8 years old, with so much mixer that you could barely taste the alcohol, and all the adults around him were having the best time. Nobody thought anything of it. He certainly didn't. What he did think about obsessively from almost the moment he could talk was making people laugh. He impersonated neighbors, teachers, and even cartoon characters he'd never met. When he got to Notre Dame High School in Harper Woods, he once hijacked the school's public address system to do dead-on impressions of the principal. He expected punishment. He got applause instead. That was the moment he understood that comedy was the only direction his life was ever going to go. He and his childhood best friend Mark Sandrowski, who later became the long-running director of The Big Bang Theory, made short films together on an 8mm camera, listened to George Carlin albums, and drew comic strips. 2 kids from Michigan with no connections and complete certainty that they were going to make it. After high school, Dave enrolled at the University of Michigan. He lasted 1 year, moved to Los Angeles at 19 with almost nothing, and got a job as a doorman at the Comedy Store on Sunset Boulevard, the same room where Jay Leno, David Letterman, Jerry Seinfeld, and Robin Williams worked every night. He watched them, learned everything he could, and got better. This was the scrappy, no safety net period of his life. And then came what should have been the biggest moment of his career, which turned into one of the most humiliating nights of his life. In 1986, Dave was cast as a featured player on Saturday Night Live. He told everyone he knew that he was moving to New York for a big job. He packed up his apartment and was on his way when the phone rang. An NBC executive called to say the offer was being pulled. He and Dana Carvey, who was already in the cast, were deemed too similar. Just like that, he had to unpack the boxes and call back everyone he'd told. Years later, he said, "I remember thinking, wow, I'm such a loser. What's next? You never really shake something like that off." What came next, though he didn't know it when he got back on that plane, was reading a script someone handed him for a new ABC show called Full House. That rejection led him directly to the role that would define his career, and the best friend who would define his life. 8 seasons on screen. Full House ran for 8 years. From nearly the first week it was on the air, It became the kind of show that families in America built their Friday nights around. The premise was simple, and the chemistry between the cast was the kind that can't be manufactured. It either exists or it doesn't. And with this group of people, it was completely real. Dave Coulier's Joey Gladstone was the goofball, the stand-up comic who lived in the basement and did cartoon voices. It mapped directly onto Dave's own skills, which made the character feel less like acting and more like someone pointing a camera at who he already was and saying, "Just be that." And that ease, that genuine warmth and silliness, is a big part of why audiences loved him. Behind the scenes, the friendship between Dave and Bob Saget was everything the show suggested it was. They had met as teenagers at a comedy club in Detroit. Saget had literally let Dave sleep on his couch in LA during the years when Dave had nowhere else to go. By the time Full House brought them into the same studio every week for 8 years, the relationship had deepened into something neither of them had to perform. They were brothers by choice, which is sometimes the strongest kind. But something else was also deepening during those years, quietly and without drawing much attention. Dave has described himself during the Full House era as a highly functional, friendly alcoholic, the life of every party, the last man at every table, and the one who always said yes to another round. He had rules. He never drank before he flew, and he told himself that level of control meant the problem couldn't be that serious. He told himself that story for a long time. His personal life was also moving fast in ways that the public didn't see clearly. He married Jane Modian in June 1990. Their son Luke was born in 1991. The marriage lasted 2 years. And then, in 1992, while still on Full House and recently divorced, he met an 18-year-old Canadian singer, Alanis Morissette. He was 32, and she was 18. They dated on and off for about 2 years, and then they broke up. And 3 years after that, she released one of the most famous breakup albums ever made. So what happened the day he heard "You Oughta Know" on the radio for the first time, and realized, sitting alone in his car in Detroit, that he might be the man she was writing about? The song "Nobody Will Officially Confirm." In the summer of 1995, Alanis Morissette released Jagged Little Pill, and it became one of the best-selling albums of the decade. The lead single, "You Oughta Know," was a raw, furious, devastatingly specific breakup anthem about a man who had moved on without looking back, while the woman he'd left was still bleeding. It hit the radio like a thunderclap. Every woman who had ever been left that way recognized something in it immediately. Dave Coulier heard it while driving through Detroit. He has told this story several times, and every version is the same. He heard the hook and thought it was a great song. He heard the voice and thought she could really sing. And then he started paying attention to the actual words, and something in his chest went cold. He went to the record store, bought the CD, parked on a street, and listened to the whole album alone, from start to finish. There were details in it that were specific to things only he and Alanis would have known. A reference to being interrupted during dinner. An inside joke about a handshake they'd made up together. Track after track. Familiar things showing up in unfamiliar, furious raiment. His first thought, by his own account, was not defensiveness or anger. It was, "I think I may have really hurt this woman." He sat with that. However, Alanis has never officially confirmed that the song is about him. In 30 years, she has been consistent about not naming names, which is actually more dignity than most people in her situation would show. In 2021, a documentary called Jagged suggested she denied it outright. Other people have claimed the song over the years: a hockey player, a music producer, an actor. Alanis herself said at one point that about 6 different men had taken credit for it. and she found the whole thing more amusing than anything else. As she pointed out, if you're going to publicly claim a famous song is about what an awful person you were to someone, you might want to think about that more carefully. Dave has, at various points, both admitted it was him and walked it back. Under enough pressure at a red carpet event, he once said, "I'm the guy," and then spent years clarifying and re-clarifying. What he has never done is say anything unkind about Alanis Morissette. Not once. Not in 30 years of being asked. There is a detail in this story that almost nobody talks about, and it changes everything. When Dave's sister Sharon was dying of cancer in a Detroit hospital, Alanis Morissette, who lived in Toronto, drove to Detroit with her guitar. She sat at Sharon's bedside. She played songs and sang to a dying woman she had no obligation to visit, in a city she didn't live in, for someone she knew only through a relationship that had ended painfully. Dave has shared that story publicly more than once. "I've never had anything bad to say about her," he has said. "She's lovely." That one detail says something real about both of them that no song title ever could. But the losses that were still coming, the ones that would define his later years far more than any pop song, were still ahead. And they were going to arrive all at once, with no warning and no mercy. The year everything broke at once. Dave Coulier got sober on January 1st, 2020. Not a slow taper or a gradual reduction. It was cold turkey, all at once, on New Year's Day. His body revolted completely. He described it as one of the hardest things he has ever physically done, but he got through it. The reason he did it had been building for years. His drinking was affecting his marriage to Melissa, the woman he had been with since 2005 and married in 2014, with the entire Full House cast present to celebrate. He could feel what it was doing to their relationship, and he made a choice. In March 2022, he posted about his sobriety on Instagram, including a photo of his own face, bloodied and bruised from a time he had been drunk and fallen going up a flight of stone stairs. He had barely found his footing in sobriety when his brother, Dan, died. Dan Coulier was funny, genuinely, naturally funny, by all accounts. He was also someone who struggled with serious mental illness for most of his adult life. In early 2021, a few weeks before his 59th birthday, Dan died by self-harm. Dave found him in their father's basement. He has talked about that moment in interviews with a steadiness that sounds hard-won rather than easy. "A part of me died that day," he told Tamron Hall, "because I really loved my brother." He has also said publicly what people who lose someone to self-harm almost always say, that he wonders whether holding on tighter could have changed the ending. Then, in early 2022, his father David died at 91. 2 losses in roughly a year. And then, on January 9th, 2022, Dave had been texting with Bob Saget all day. Regular texts, joke back and forth, the way they always communicated. He told Bob to have a great show. Bob was in Florida on his comedy tour, performed a 2-hour set in Jacksonville, posted warmly about it on social media, went back to his hotel room, and never woke up. He hit his head at some point before bed. The blunt force trauma caused bleeding in the brain that killed him in his sleep. He was just 65 years old. Dave Coulier was one of Bob Saget's pallbearers. He described the grief of losing Bob as its own particular kind, not bigger or smaller than losing family, but just different. The kind where you pick up your phone to text someone, remember they're gone, and feel it hit you fresh all over again. "I'll be having a moment of clarity, and I'll think, oh, call Bob," he said in 2024. And then I realize I can't. 3 losses in a year and a half. Still sober, still standing. And then his body gave him something else entirely. 2. Cancer. Cancer is no stranger to Dave Coulier's family. His mother, Arlen, died of breast cancer at 82 in 2014. His sister, Sharon, died of breast cancer at 36 years old. His niece, Shannon, died of breast cancer at 29. His sister, Karen, has been living with cancer. The family carries a BRCA1 gene mutation that has been devastating, primarily to its women. Because BRCA1 mainly hits females, Dave's wife, Melissa, had never thought his own cancer diagnosis was coming. It didn't seem like territory that applied to him. Then, in October 2024, he came down with what felt like an ordinary upper respiratory infection. His lymph nodes swelled. They sometimes did when he was sick. But this time, a golf ball-sized lump appeared in his groin within a week. He went to his doctor. They ran scans and took a biopsy. 3 days later, the call came. Stage 3 non-Hodgkin lymphoma. B cell, very aggressive. He and Melissa sat together after the call and cried. He told her he was prepared for the worst. If I die, I die. And if I can stay here, great. I want to. He went through 6 rounds of chemotherapy. Grueling, bone-deep exhaustion. His hair fell out. His immune system was so damaged that catching a common cold put him in the hospital for multiple nights. After the 5th round, he told Melissa he wasn't sure he could do another one. He did it anyway. In March 2025, the news came back clear. No sign of cancer. Cancer-free. Candace Cameron Bure posted it on Instagram in all caps with exclamation points. The whole Full House family exhaled. He had 7 months. Then a PET scan caught something at the base of his tongue. His doctors weren't sure what it was at first. They biopsied it. No cancer cells initially. They were cautiously relieved. But the mass kept flaring. A few months later, it had grown. Another biopsy. Different results this time. HPV-related oropharyngeal squamous cell carcinoma, a cancer at the base of his tongue, entirely unrelated to the lymphoma. His doctors said it was caused by an HPV-16 infection that may have sat dormant in his body for up to 30 years before something activated it and turned it malignant. A separate cancer, a separate battle, right on top of the first one. "Are you kidding me?" was his response, by his own account. He went through 35 rounds of targeted radiation. The side effects hit hard. He could not eat solid food for months. He lost 45 pounds. His voice changed. The radiation left its mark on the instrument he had spent his entire career building. When fans noticed and started asking questions on social media, he posted a video explaining his face to people who had known and loved it for decades. "What you're seeing are the side effects of extensive radiation I went through for carcinoma in my throat. I haven't been able to eat solid food in months, so I've lost 45 pounds." In February 2026, he announced remission from the second cancer as well. Both cancers are in the rear view. His oncologist said the prognosis looks good. He is focused on his wellness brand, his artwork, rebuilding his strength one day at a time, his wife Melissa, and getting back to hockey and flying. The 2 things that have always made him feel most like himself. But you cannot go through all of that and come out the other side unchanged. The man who announced remission in early 2026 is not the same man who was doing cartoon voices on Full House in 1991. The face is different. The voice is different. The body is different. And underneath all of that, something has been stripped away that was always there before. The easy lightness, the effortless performance of being the funny guy who makes everything okay. Dave Coulier is now 66 years old. He lives in St. Clair Shores, Michigan, the same town where he grew up, and the same lake he has looked at his whole life. He moved back years ago and has said multiple times that he is more at peace there than anywhere else on Earth. Even when it's ice out on the lake, and I'm looking out, he has said, there's a certain magic about being here. He is 5 years sober. He went through 2 back-to-back cancer diagnoses with 2 separate treatment regimens, lost 45 pounds, and cannot currently eat the way a normal person eats, all while sober, all while feeling every moment of it without anything to take the edge off. His estimated net worth sits around $5 million, comfortable, but not the kind of money that makes 2 cancer diagnoses and that level of personal devastation feel easy or distant. He still does stand-up comedy when his body allows, tours with the Clean Guys of Comedy, and shows up for charity hockey events. He is building a wellness brand called Aware Market, focused on reducing the kind of environmental toxins he believes contributed to his lymphatic system crashing in the first place. The Full House family has stayed genuinely close. John Stamos, Candace Cameron Bure, and Andrea Barber check in. They grieve together. When Dave was declared cancer-free the first time, Candace's announcement felt like real joy, not a PR stunt, because these people actually know each other and love each other in a way that is rarer in Hollywood. How did Dave succeed in his sobriety journey, especially after all the tragic experiences? How did cancer affect his career? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.